Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for stopping by. Today is a very special day for me. I just hit 1,000 subscribers in YouTube. I really appreciate all of you accepting me into this community and allowing me to create these tutorial videos. Once again, you have motivated me to create more and more exciting videos just like this, and I'm so grateful that I'm part of this community. Thank you once again for helping me reach this milestone, and I'm looking forward to hitting more and more milestones with you. Now let's get into the video. Before we go into setting up our sidearm, we want to now start looking at naming these UIs so that it's specific to primary, secondary, and such. Right now we have a weapon select, which has our primary weapon information. And then also we have our weapon select box, which is built on the primary weapon information. So we want to duplicate this for our sidearm. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to create a new folder and then name this primary, and then create another folder, and this would be for our secondary. I'm going to take this weapon select and then press F2 to rename it. And then I don't want this to be too long, so I'm going to go ahead and rename this to primary underscore weapon select. Let's put a W underscore in front of it just so that we know it's a widget. And then same thing here, I'm going to go ahead and select this, and then I'm going to name this as W underscore primary underscore WS underscore box. So now we know these two are the primary ones. I'm going to go ahead and save all. And then I'm going to right click on this primary WS and then duplicate it. We're going to rename this as our sidearm. Weapon select underscore one, and then also this box for our primary box. We're going to go ahead and right click, duplicate it, and make this our sidearm underscore box. So these two primary weapon, I'm going to drag it and drop it into this primary, move here. And the sidearm, we're going to move this to our sidearm folder here as well. Let's go ahead and make sure we save everything so that you don't lose any of your progress. Now, if I go into my sidearm, let's go to our sidearm weapon select here. First thing I'm going to do is go open up our size box, scroll box, and the AR button, I'm going to rename this to pistol underscore button, and then open it up, and then inside where it says assault rifle, I'm going to name this as pistols. And here, if you have any other secondary, this is where you would go ahead and build it. You can always right click to duplicate this and then add more. But I'm going to add one more just to show you how this would be done. So the SMG button, I'm going to name this into launcher. And then the text would be launchers. Right? And then we don't need the LMG button, shotgun, or the SR button. This is good. And the scroll box, I'm going to select it and then center this so it doesn't look awkward on the left. Now you're going to get some errors because we need to go and fix a lot of other things. So go to your graph, and then here where it says LMG button, shotgun button, and the sniper rifle button, we're going to go ahead and delete it. So now we have our pistol button and a launcher button. Now if you notice something, we actually have a class in our primary, which our secondary doesn't really have. So we need to go and fix that first before we go anywhere else. So go to your content drawer, into your loadout system, open up your data set, open up your secondary data set, and we're going to create a new enumeration in here in our secondary. And this would be E underscore sidearm class. Open this up, and then this is where you would add your classes for your, and if you have anything more than pistols and launchers, this is where you would add your classes. Now, if you have any other secondary weapon or sidearms, this is where you can just go ahead and add it to your enumeration. We're only going to work with pistols and launchers for now. Now, it's very important. I cannot stress this enough. It's very important that after you build a whole bunch of code for using your structures, it is not really advisable to go and edit your structures because it will break so many different things unless you know exactly what you're doing and what you're changing, and you know all of your structures that is using this information, and then you go and make the necessary changes there, you should be fine. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a new variable and then name this as class. And this would be our new enumeration that we just created, E sidearm class. Now this structure is being shared in our main loadout struct. So we need to go back to our loadout system, blueprints, and where we have our loadout struct, you can see how there's a star. That means something got edited, and there's a problem. It doesn't like us editing our existing struct. There's an easy way to fix this. All you have to do is the struct that you just edited, which is our sidearm info, and change the type of it. I'm going to select Boolean. That'll make it good to go. And then go ahead and select it again. And then we're going to go s_sidearm info. And that should fix the problem here. And that should eliminate it. Now, very important. When you edit one struct, if there is another struct that is referencing that struct, you need to go back to the second struct and then fix it, or else it will break a whole bunch of different codes. It's easy. It's not difficult to fix it. You just got to be a little bit careful. And now we can go ahead and save all. You can see that struct was being referenced in all of these files. And then just because we fixed it, every other file needs to be saved one more time. And if I press compile here, there should be no errors. If you press compile at this stage, if there are errors, go find out what the problem is and then make sure you fix it before we move any further. With that being said, now we can go ahead and we need to change this filter weapons by class. So we're going to open up our filter weapons by class. And right now, if I select the actual function, it's going to be looking for the E weapon class, which is our primary weapon class. We're going to change this to E_sidearm class. And that easily changes into our sidearm class. And then next thing we need to do is change this weapons data table to sidearm. And also this data table here, we need to change this to sidearm. We need to make everything into sidearm. This S weapon info is no longer valid. This is our primary weapon. So we want to drag off of this and then break our sidearm info. We're going to delete this class, and then we're going to go ahead and then right click and say get class. And at the very bottom, you should be able to have this get class, and then you should be able to plug this in here. So this is the class with the sidearm info. And now we can compile here, close this. Next thing that we need to edit is our create children. Our create children is looking for the primary weapon. So we have to go ahead and change that to sidearm. And that makes it so that this S weapons info is no longer valid. So we need to now go ahead and update our widget before we move any further. So we're going to go to our content drawer, back into our loadout system, UI, sidearm, and we're creating the primary box. So we need to update our sidearm box here. So open up our sidearm box. This image doesn't really matter because it's just a placeholder. Go to your graph. Where it says S weapon info, we're going to go ahead and select and delete it. And then also here where it says S weapon info, we're going to delete it. And select this S weapon info variable that we have instance editable and expose on spawn. Make this into S_sidearm info. And then make this of type sidearm info structure. Now you can go ahead and drag this in here, get sidearm info, break. Name will be connected to the name here. Move this down. And then our portrait will be connected to our portrait here. We have an interface function in here that is sending out the S weapons info. We're going to come back to this in just a moment to fix it. But before that, let's go to our actual weapon select UI. And instead of this primary box widget, we're going to now select it. And then we're going to create the sidearm box widget. And that's going to give you that sidearm info. All you have to do is just drag this out row, plug it into the sidearm, right click on this widget, and then click on refresh, and that'll go away. Now go back to your event construct and make sure that the pistols are selected here. And then if there's any type of errors like this, just right click and then refresh the node, and then that should usually fix the problem. And the launcher, we need to select our launcher class to launchers. Now, just to quickly recap that, in our sidearm class, we created a new class for a new enumeration with our pistols and launchers. And in our filter weapon by class, we need to change our data table to the sidearm data table, and also the data table row here to the sidearm data table row. Break the sidearm information, update this class, and just add them together here, class equals class. And then in our create children, we updated our sidearm data table here. And then also we went ahead and created our sidearm box widget, making sure that it is the sidearm here. Now we can go ahead and close this. And now on weapon select, we are actually shooting out a message saying, hey, the pistol has been selected. we're going to just go ahead and edit that here. So I can go ahead and double click on this interface function and that will open up the interface for me. Just a shortcut. I'm going to click on add function and I'm going to name this as UI underscore sidearm underscore on click. And this should have an input of our sidearm info. So sidearm info. And we're going to set this as our sidearm structure. Compile, and back in our box, we can go ahead and delete this weapon select on clicked and then drag off of this and say UI underscore sidearm on clicked. And this will send out the message with this sidearm information over to our first person character. Now that we are done this, we're going to go ahead and then save all of this and then close our box, sidearm box. Go to your content drawer, go to your blueprints and then open up your first person character blueprint. And we want to implement the function, right? In our interface where we have sidearm clicked, right click and then click on implement. And it's going to be the exact same thing as this function. The only difference with instead of update primary weapon, we're going to create a new function to update our sidearm. So I'm going to go ahead and double click this. That will bring me to the loadout system and also the function. I'm going to just right click on this update primary weapon and then duplicate it and rename this primary as sidearm and get rid of the 0. And here it's pretty easy. Select the sidearm and then go ahead and make this into s underscore sidearm info. Make this sidearm info. Name the name of the actual input. And this loadout struct, uncheck the primary, uncheck the secondary or sidearm. And then connect the sidearm info here. That's all you got to do. There's nothing much to do here. We just need to make sure that the proper structure is called out here. In our first person character, we're going to go back on this event UI clicked, drag our loadout system, and then we're going to call out the function that we just created, update sidearm weapon. And the loadout class would be the exact same thing. So we're going to drag our current loadout index onto here. And make sure you plug this sidearm information that's coming in here. And the rest of the function is exactly the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and then paste it. And plug this loadout setup here. And then also this loadout index. We're going to plug it in here. This will now get all the widgets with this interface and then send out to update their loadout struct information. So the newly selected sidearm gets visually selected as well. Next, what we're going to do is go to your content drawer, go to your loadout system, datasets, secondary weapon, and in your DT sidearm, we only have a pistol, but we also created a launcher class. So just for the purpose of showing you that it works, I'm going to right click and then duplicate and then name this as launcher and make the class as launchers here and then press save. So this way we have now created a launcher class. The portrait and the mesh is going to be the same because I don't really have a launcher at this time, but the concept of it works. The last thing that we need to do is our pause menu. So go to your content drawer, go back to your loadout system, go to UI, and we have our pause menu here. Now we need to do a little bit of a logic here. So right now, if you remember in our event UI loadout clicked, we're sending in the class information. What that means is if I go to my loadouts here, this UI, I'm actually saying if I click on the sidearm button, the class is actually secondary. And if I click on the melee, the class is melee. And when I notify it, I'm notifying with that class information as well. And we're going to utilize it now. First thing I want to do is drag this back a little, drag off of this class and say switch. Switch on eLoadout class. And this will give me all of the classes. So let's go ahead and connect this execution pin here. Now, currently, our logic is set up so that when the primary weapon gets selected, the loadout container gets hidden. We're notifying this pause menu that the weapon select is open. And also we're setting our visibility of our loadout main button, which is basically this button right here, to hidden. So we hide it away. And we're creating the primary widget, getting a reference of the primary widget, adding it to our screen. And this move left custom loadout buttons, that one gets moved to the left. And then our back button also gets visible as well. So right now what we want to do is we're going to leave this primary function here for now. And then I'm going to drag this primary and then connect it here. So when the primary gets selected, this is the function that's going to fire. When the secondary gets selected, however, we want to do a couple things. We need to do a check. Is this primary widget open? To check that, we're already creating a reference of that primary widget here, which I renamed to W Weapon Select UI Primary, just so that we know which reference we're calling it. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this primary widget reference, do a get, drag off of it, and then I'm going to look for a valid function with a question mark, which will give me an execution. Drag the secondary, and we're going to plug it in here. What we're asking is, when the secondary button gets selected, is the primary weapon screen open? If it is open, we want to get our primary widget, and then we're going to remove from parent. So this will destroy that widget from the screen. Now, logically, you will never be able to select the secondary weapon if the primary weapon screen is available, because the secondary weapon will be hidden. But this is always a good fail-safe to have. And now what we want to do is, if this primary weapon is not on the screen, then we want to get our loadout container and then hide it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this. And then also we want to take our loadout main button and then copy and paste it as hidden. So we want to hide our loadout here. So back in our designer, we want to hide our loadouts and also our loadout button here. The custom loadout has already gone out of the screen at this point. And we also want to notify the pause menu that the secondary weapon select is open. So we're going to create a variable and we're going to say sidearm underscore weapon select WS underscore open. And I'm going to connect this to my is not valid and then make it true. So this notifies the pause menu that the sidearm weapon select is open. And then now I can plug this in here. And once I set this both of them to hidden, our button, loadout button, and also the container, now I can go ahead and create a widget. So create a widget. And this widget would be our sidearm weapon select. And our owning player would be our get player controller, right? And then now we're going to get a reference to this. So promote to variable, and we're going to name this as W underscore weapon select. I'll say WS underscore sidearm underscore ref. So that will be a sidearm reference of the weapon select. And now this one I'm going to drag and then say add to viewport. Right? This back button, I want this to be visible now. So this will bring me back to my main loadout screen. Now, I am not setting up the back button functionality here, so it is not going to work as intended yet because I want to create a separate video for just the back button, just to keep this videos nice and short. If I go into the back button now, it's going to be too long. We need to do a little bit of logic thinking, and then we need to set up all logics for our back button because we need to use the same back button for multiple different screens. So this is going to take a separate video of its own. But at this point in time, this should do the trick. So if I go ahead and if I press play, now if I click on loadout, custom loadout, if I click on pistol, the pistol is the only thing that shows up. If I select launcher, and then that's what we have. Now, if I press the back button, it's not going to work as intended because we haven't really made the back button logic, but we know that our sidearm select is working. So folks, I think this is a great spot for us to stop here and continue on to our next video. Our next video is going to be the back button and the logic of the back button and such. And followed by that, we will take a look at how to do the melee weapons and then the tacticals, lethals, and then also the perks. Folks, we just hit our 1,000 subscribers today. So I really am grateful and thankful for everybody who has joined our community here. I'm so happy to see that within a month of me starting this channel, I'm already at 1,000 subscribers. I really appreciate this amazing community that I am part of. Thank you very much for welcoming me into this community. If you had liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you could hit that like button so we can continue on this streak and continue for more and more success and also quality content for all indie developers and game developers out there. Once again, thank you very much for stopping by. I'll catch you on the next one.